I read a message from an anonymous Instagram account telling me my wife was seen holding hands with her male coworker after a work function, and my wife says she was too drunk to remember if anything happened, but that the messenger is her jealous female coworker trying to stir trouble. Posted by you/thrower holding hands. My wife, 36F, and I, 40M, have been together 5 years and got married last year. We definitely have our ups and downs, but we're generally happy. On Friday, she went out with people from her work for Christmas drinks and arrived home around midnight absolutely hammered. She just said she'd had a good time and went straight to bed. Yesterday, I got a message on Instagram from an anonymous account claiming to be one of her colleagues, saying she'd been flirting all night with one of the guys from the office, 44M, and they'd left together at about 9 to walk to the train station. The colleague had a couple more drinks, then went to the station herself, and says she saw my wife walking hand in hand with the guy through the station at about 10:45. They didn't see her. Last night, I showed her the message and asked her for an explanation. She claims she was so drunk she doesn't remember anything that happened after about 8 p.m. I asked if she went somewhere with the guy after they left the group, and she checked the location history on her phone, which confirmed that they had gone to a bar near the station for about an hour. They arrived at the station at 10:40. She gave me her phone and insisted I check it, and there were no suspicious messages or anything. As far as I could tell, she doesn't have the guy's number in her phone, and they're not following each other on Instagram or friends on Facebook. I asked if she was flirting with him, and she admitted that she was talking mostly to him all night, but that's just because he's the only person in her office she has anything in common with, and that they're just friends, and it wasn't flirting. She's mentioned this guy to me before and said how much they have in common. I asked if they were holding hands, and she said she doesn't remember, but she doesn't think so. She claims to know who sent me the message and says it's a woman in the office who hates her, although she doesn't know why. Today, she's been in a terrible mood, and we've not really spoken. So that's where we are. I'm not sure what to do. Is this as big a red flag as it seems to be? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. There are a collection of issues here, but the terrible mood today seems like a big one. The information you received is largely correct. It looks a bit fishy, and instead of offering reassurance, she is in retaliation mode, no doubt focusing on her office rival. She should be apologizing and doing what she can to defuse the situation. Getting so drunk you can't recall and focusing on a particular man, then going off privately with him, I wonder how she would feel if this were something you had done. Tell her to lose the attitude and figure out how she plans to sort this out. Commenter 2. So she was too drunk to remember anything for 4 hours? Yet was still capable of getting herself home? If nothing had happened, I feel like her answer would have been what? No? No, I didn't do that. Instead, it was well, I don't remember, yes, I was talking to him a lot, yes, we went to a bar alone, but nothing happened. I don't remember anything, but I definitely remember that nothing happened, somehow. That woman's out to get me, now I'm going to sulk. And oof. That's not the answer you want to hear. Update 9 days later. A few people requested an update to my last post, and a lot has happened in the last week, so here it is. I'll post any further updates on my profile. TDLR, my wife, Sam, got drunk on a work night out and was seen holding hands with a guy from her office. Sam came home from work on Monday and casually said that she'd spoken with the guy, Tom, and he'd confirmed that they hadn't held hands. They'd just been walking arm in arm because she was drunk and wearing heels. I asked why her colleague, Helen, would make an Instagram account, track me down, and message me saying they held hands if it wasn't true. She said Helen is basically in love with Tom and made a pass at him just after his divorce, but he rejected her. I asked why Helen would feel threatened by her. She said because she and Tom are friends, and Helen's a crazy jealous BTCH, as evidenced by the Instagram message. I asked why she went for a drink with just Tom. She said that, according to Tom, they walked past this bar with an amazing live band playing, so they stopped in for a drink. Her only regret was doing too many shots too early and getting crap-faced. The next day she went shopping after work and came home with a new dress. I asked what the occasion was, and she said her work Christmas party. Last week was just drinks with people from her office. The company Christmas party is on Friday. Apparently, she'd mentioned this. I hardly slept that night. The next day I decided to reply to the Instagram message to get some more info. I asked, "Do you think anything's going on with them?" Helen, I assume, quickly replied with a long message saying that they flirt at work and everyone's noticed. Apparently, Sam was going to be let go, but Tom put in a good word, so she kept her job. Tom protects her in the office and will constantly defend her. She also said that Sam beaches about me to the whole office, and it's clear we don't have a happy marriage. I asked if she was going to the Christmas party, and she said she was. She said she'd update me if anything happened. Sam finished work early on Friday, so she had time to get ready. She looked amazing, and I really didn't want her to go, but I felt like I couldn't say anything. I got an Instagram message about midnight saying that Sam and Tom hadn't interacted at the party, but that people from the office had decided to leave and go to a different bar. They all left just before 11 and were at the new bar by 10 past. Sam and Tom turned up just before midnight. Sam arrived home about 2 a.m., not quite as drunk as last time, and went straight to sleep. I pretended to be fast asleep. I looked at the location history on her phone. After leaving the venue, she'd taken a 3-mile detour to a residential street, stayed for half an hour, then gone to the bar. I sent the address to Helen. She didn't reply until the next morning, when she said it was Tom's house. When Sam woke up, I just asked her straight out if she cheated on me with Tom last night. She angrily denied it. I told her that I knew she'd been to Tom's house. She accused me of spying on her, called me controlling, and said she was going to stay with her sister. I demanded an explanation, and she said she went to his house so they could smoke a joint before heading to the bar. Then she stormed out. She wouldn't reply to my messages or answer my calls all day Sunday. I called her sister, who said she hadn't seen her, but she texted me later that she'd spoken to Sam and she was okay. Sam came home yesterday morning. I asked where she'd been, and she just said she couldn't do this anymore and wants a divorce. She went to start packing some clothes while I tried to get her to talk to me. I asked if she was leaving me for Tom. She once again denied anything inappropriate had happened between them, but said my jealousy was the final straw. It's clear I don't trust her, I'm controlling, I take her for granted. She's deeply unhappy. Has been for a while. So she's gone. It looks like I'll be spending my first Christmas alone. I have no idea if she was telling the truth or if it was an affair. Weirdly, I'm not feeling too bad today, so maybe this is for the best. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. She did the hard part for you. She is 100% full of crap. Best of luck to you this holiday season. Commenter 2. I understand the possibility of a jealous coworker making up a story to get someone in trouble, like she claimed. But when your spouse brings that to your attention, you'd think it would be smart to maybe not go to the guy's house alone within a week. She knew the relationship was coming to an end and didn't care. Second update 20 days later. Once she was gone, Sam blocked me on all her social media and refused to return my messages or answer my calls. I ended up traveling to the other side of the country to spend Christmas with my parents. On Christmas Eve, Sam came home and took more of her stuff. I watched her on our security cameras. I tried phoning her, but she ignored my calls. Christmas wasn't great, and my parents were both shocked and in denial about what had happened. They had no idea we were having issues and insisted Sam would come to her senses and come home. Eventually, I just said she'd met someone else. I returned home on the 27th. I've been getting sporadic updates from Sam's sister, just letting me know she's alright but without any details. Before all this happened, we'd made plans to spend New Year's Eve at Sam's favorite bar in the city. I went on my own, but she didn't show up. On Tuesday night, I received an Instagram message from Helen saying that Sam and Tom had arrived at work together in Tom's car. I didn't bother replying. On Wednesday night, she sent another message saying Sam was poisoning the office against her, and that Tom was pushing upper management to transfer her to another office or get rid of her. She begged me to do something. I texted Sam and said we needed to talk, but she didn't reply. So the next day, I called her work switchboard, gave a fake name, and got put through. I could tell she wasn't happy to hear my voice, but she agreed to meet up after work at a local pub and talk. I got there early, and she arrived 25 minutes late. She apologized for ignoring my calls and said she still cares about me and wants to end things on good terms. I said, just tell me the truth. She promised that she wasn't having an affair with Tom, and they were just friends. She admitted that they talk a lot in the office but insisted it wasn't an emotional affair. She understands why I was suspicious after the Instagram message, but said I should have accepted her denial and trusted her. She has a lot of male friends, but she felt like she couldn't hang out with them because I'd get jealous. I pointed out that I've never told her not to hang out with anyone, but she said I'd be in a mood whenever she'd hang out with a guy friend. She feels like we only got married to try and fix a relationship that was already broken. Our conversations have devolved into small talk, and we've drifted apart. I said I'd heard that she and Tom arrived at work together. Sam said she went to Tom's after I accused her of cheating and knew it was over between us. They spent the weekend together and agreed that they'd make a better couple than we did. She needed me to know that nothing happened between them until after she'd told me she wanted a divorce. And now they were together. And she wanted me to hear it from her before I saw it on social media. Tom was waiting outside for her in the car. All I could do was stand up and walk out. Sam texted me saying she knew I was upset, but not to do anything stupid. I blocked her number. I'm not gonna lie, it was a rough night. The next day I was just numb. Didn't really do much. Over the weekend, I dug out our marriage certificate so I can start divorce proceedings. I've no idea what to say to Helen, so I haven't replied. I think the plan now is to try and find a new job closer to my hometown. I moved across the country to live with Sam, and I've never really felt settled here. I also don't want to run into her and Tom around town. Luckily, we rent. This will probably be my last update unless something miraculous happens, so thanks for reading. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. She's lying her bum off. She could have gone to anyone's house to spend the night, but she went to his. She didn't decide that they'd make a better couple until after you called her out on it. She was cheating the entire time, got caught, and lied. It was emotional and physical. Now she can blame you for everything. It's all your fault because you're insecure and didn't trust her. Complete BS. Commenter 2. Hey man, I've been through similar, and I have known a bunch of people who have as well. Let me tell you that your experience is very typical for someone on the receiving end of a cheating spouse. It will drive you crazy because you will never know the full truth, but your wife was almost certainly having an affair for a while with this guy. Very typical behavior for cheating spouses is to shift blame off themselves to justify their affair, i.e. blocking you everywhere, acting like your controlling behavior drove her to this guy, minimizing your entire relationship, trashing you to anyone who will listen, etc. They will also almost never tell you the truth or admit to the affair, no matter the evidence. They will continue to lie, excuse, and gaslight. Be glad this happened now rather than after wasting more years of your life with this person. They are gone from your life and have written you off. They have told everyone they can think of that you are awful in an effort to protect themselves if accusations of their infidelity come around. Move on, minimize contact, and come to terms with the fact that you aren't going to have any further honest communication with your ex. Get therapy. Life goes on. Third update 4 months later. My soon-to-be ex-wife is pregnant and has suggested to her friend that it's mine. The only way this is possible is if she's had our final frozen embryo implanted without my permission. If that's what she's done, then either the IVF clinic haven't asked for my sign-off, or she's somehow convinced them that I've granted permission. When I left our shared house in January, I couldn't find my passport, so it's likely she has it. I'm waiting for a call back from the clinic, but I'm freaking out and want to get an idea of the potential consequences. Could she get sent to prison? What will happen to the clinic? What happens when the baby arrives, considering the circumstances? We're in England. Thanks. Edit. I've finally spoken to the clinic manager, and it seems this is all down to my own stupidity. When our last embryo didn't take, we signed all the paperwork a few weeks later to do the final transfer. My wife then developed some hormonal issues, so we paused the process until she could get it sorted out. Then, for various reasons, we decided not to proceed with the transfer, which she told the clinic. Apparently, they just paused the process for up to 3 years in order to protect our deposit, and the consent forms remained valid. My wife had the transfer 6 weeks ago. Fourth update 4 months later. My ex-wife is pregnant with our first child, due on Christmas Eve. There's more detail in my profile, but essentially we broke up last Christmas, and I moved back in with my parents 200 plus miles away. She started a relationship with a coworker, which caused so much drama at her work that in February she reached a mutual agreement to immediately resign in exchange for 6 months' salary. The relationship ended, and she used the settlement money to restart the IVF process we'd paused years earlier. When I found out she was pregnant, I contacted the IVF clinic, who explained that the contracts we'd signed at the start of the process were still valid, and they hadn't done anything wrong. I disagreed, and thanks to the advice and recommendations of our legal advice UK, I hired solicitors specializing in clinical negligence and contract law. They managed to negotiate a settlement with the clinic in lieu of legal action. My ex and I ended up with about £80,000 each after fees. Plus, the clinic updated their processes to require that consent be reconfirmed by both parties before any embryo transfer takes place. For the last 4 months, I've been in regular contact with my ex, discussing settlement negotiations and traveling down south for scans. When I asked why she did it, she just said that she knew this was her last chance to have a baby, and when she came into some money, she took it as a sign that she should go ahead with the embryo transfer before I remembered to withdraw consent. She's since been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which in her mind has absolved her of any responsibility for her actions. She's desperate for us to get back together and raise our son as a family. I'm not interested in being a couple, but I obviously don't want to be 200 miles away from my son. I've got a new job, so I really didn't want to move back down to Hampshire. However, she was willing to move up to Yorkshire as long as we lived together, so we agreed to spend the settlement money on a house in my hometown. I picked up the keys last week, and I've been furnishing and decorating in preparation for us moving in next week. My ex has no friends or family around here and no job. Us living together is going to be super awkward, but once the baby comes, I'm hoping we can get into a co-parenting routine. The new house has 3 bedrooms, so we'll have 1 each and 1 for our son. We've agreed not to see other people for at least 3 years, her request. What's the best way to navigate this situation? We're both very excited to be parents, and I hope I'm making the best of a crappy situation, but it's obviously fraught with potential pitfalls. I don't see us rekindling a romantic relationship. In an ideal world, we'll live together for a few years, then sell the house, by which point she'll be settled here, and we can live close to each other and co-parent our son. I hope I'm not being unbelievably naive and making a huge mistake. My parents are excited to be grandparents, but they're not keen on the idea of us living together. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. You are being unbelievably naive and making a huge mistake. Apparently, you have also lost your mind. Commenter 2. Why did she receive any money from a settlement against the clinic, when she mindfully and knowingly used the clinic? Ops response. My solicitor added her to the complaint. Their argument was that she shouldn't have been allowed to go ahead with the procedure without my consent, and that, because the clinic didn't seek that consent, we've both been harmed, as we'll be jointly responsible for a baby as a result of the illegal procedure. Not sure how that would play in court, but the clinic were very keen to settle. Fifth update 3 months later. To say my last post got a negative response would be an understatement. It was a strange feeling reading all the replies saying what a mistake I was making after putting in so much thought and spending lots of time and effort to get where I was. Someone sent me a link to a TikTok of my previous posts. Hearing the worst time of my life being read out loud really affected me and brought out a lot of feelings of guilt and shame. It made me realize that I hadn't even begun to process what happened last Christmas, or why, and I contacted a therapist the next day. Sam moved in the day before my first appointment. It was awkward, but she was busy organizing her new room, so I just left her to it. That night we ordered pizza and watched a movie. It was nice. I met the therapist the next day and explained the situation. He thought the whole thing was a bad idea, but as we were now living together, he agreed to help us navigate things as smoothly as possible. He thought couples therapy would be the best option. Sam and I have seen him every week since then and gone through our entire relationship. After 4 miscarriages, the last 2 at 12+ weeks, absolutely wrecked Sam's mental health, I started cooling on the idea of continuing to try for a child. Instead of talking to Sam, she so desperately wanted to be a mom I thought it would break her, I just pulled away from her. Of course she noticed and blamed herself and began spiraling. Couple this with undiagnosed bipolar disorder and the hormone issues which resulted from the IVF, and it was a recipe for disaster. Sam thought, possibly correctly, that I wanted out of the relationship but was too cowardly to come out and say it. So I just checked out and waited for her to get sick of me. The whole Tom situation was the straw that broke the camel's back, and she gave up fighting for our marriage and let me get out guilt-free. In therapy I've learned to accept my responsibility for the breakup of our marriage. I wasn't a good husband towards the end, and it's a miracle Sam stuck around as long as she did. The time apart made me realize how much I still love her. We've agreed to try and embrace what's happened and be thankful it brought us to where we are now. Hopefully we've both learned lessons that will make our relationship stronger. I know I have. So we're now back living as a couple. I canceled the divorce, which was taking ages as Sam refused to engage with it. Our son was born on December 11th, 2 weeks earlier than expected, and he's absolutely perfect. I'm holding him as I write this. I know a lot of people who read my previous posts will be disappointed with how I've handled this, but at the end of the day we've only got one chance at life, and I honestly can't think of a better way to spend mine. Thanks for all your advice over the past year, and Merry Christmas. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Oh, poor guy. You let yourself be manipulated into taking her back. This was why people told you moving in together was a bad idea. Didn't it ever occur to you that her getting pregnant with your child without your consent is another manipulation tactic? Then this sob story. You fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Ops response. Yes, that did occur to me, but bear in mind we've been trying for a child for 3 years. 2 cycles of IVF and 4 embryo transfers resulted in miscarriage. The only reason we didn't go for the 5th transfer was the toll it was taking on Sam's mental and physical health. She truly believed this was her last chance at having a baby and that I was going to withdraw consent. To me, that's forgivable, but of course, I understand where you're coming from. Commenter 2. Man, don't rug sweep the Tom situation. Did Helen lose her job because of them? Ops response. No, Sam lost her job and Helen stayed. Tom didn't step in to save Sam, which caused a huge argument and led to them breaking up. Tom moved to a new company a few months later. 6th update 5 months later. My wife gave birth to our son in December. She suffers from untreated bipolar disorder, and after Christmas, she developed severe PPD. We agreed that she'd go and stay with her mom for a week, as she was spiraling and needed a break. She never came back, and we're no longer in direct contact. Our last conversation was over a month ago, and it didn't go well. She apparently has no interest in being in our son's life or even getting updates on him. As far as I know, she's still living with her mom, 200+ miles away. I've been offered a secondment at my company's Swedish office covering maternity leave for a year. I want to take it, but I don't want to tell my wife, as she would likely try to throw a spanner in the works. I have my son's passport and original birth certificate. Can I just go without telling her? We also own a house together, which I'd like to rent out while I'm away. If she turns up out of the blue and finds someone else living here, could she do anything? There's no mortgage, and all the bills are in my name, but she's on the deeds. To be clear, if she ever decides to unblock me and wants to see our son, then of course we'd come back. I'm not looking to take him away from her forever, but I think this would be good for us.